Welcome back. If you're a developer looking to uncover the hidden architecture of a truly massive global industry, well, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're diving into an explainer on Guidewire Gosu. Now, if that name doesn't immediately ring a bell, don't worry. It's essentially the secret language of the insurance tech world. And we're going to unpack exactly why it matters, how the whole thing works, and how you can master it. So let me hit you with a question right off the bat. What language actually powers modern insurance? I mean, in the tech world, we constantly hear the hype around Python or JavaScript, right? They get all the glory. But behind the scenes of these multi-billion-dollar insurance operations, Gosu is the language quietly running the show. It doesn't really need the mainstream hype because, honestly, it delivers results where it counts the most. All right, let's get right into it. What exactly is Gosu? Technically speaking, it's an object-oriented programming language that runs on the Java Virtual Machine, or JVM. It was purpose-built to write business logic seamlessly within Guidewire applications. And because it's running on the JVM, you get that rock-solid Java stability, but, and this is key, without dealing with all that overly complex syntax. Its entire focus is just taking real-world insurance rules and translating them directly into super clean, efficient code. To guide us through, here's our roadmap for today's explainer. First, we'll cover the power of Gosu, then setting up your environment. After that, writing your first code, followed by coding best practices, and finally, real-world insurance solutions. Let's jump in. Section 1. The power of Gosu, where simplicity meets power. At first glance, you might think, okay, it's just another programming language, but it's actually incredibly accessible. Think about generic code for a second. It's often intimidating, cluttered, complex, and built for really broad, abstract tasks. You usually need lines and lines of code just to do something simple. Gosu's business logic, on the other hand, is clean and readable. It's elegant because it's built specifically for insurance workflows. Instead of writing code that feels completely disconnected from reality, you're building logic that perfectly mirrors actual real-world insurance scenarios. There are a few key features that give Gosu this perfect balance. First, its object-oriented structure keeps everything organized and maintainable. It's got a beautifully clean syntax, and it allows for safe enhancements to existing classes, which basically means you can add new features without breaking the core system. But honestly, the absolute best feature? Automatic type inference. It literally does the heavy lifting for you. You aren't constantly declaring data types, which strips away all that unnecessary code clutter and lets you just focus entirely on the logic itself. Section 2. Setting up your environment using Guidewire Studio tools. Now, getting set up does take a little bit of effort, mainly because you aren't just playing in a basic learning sandbox. You're building a real-deal enterprise environment. But to keep things simple, your tech stack really just needs 4 main components. You need the Java development kit, an application server, a Guidewire app like PolicyCenter or ClaimCenter to actually give your code context, and finally, Guidewire Studio. Studio is basically your all-in-one hub. Everything, editing scripts, testing, debugging, happens right there in one unified place. Once you've got that running, you're testing code in real time. Section 3. Writing your first code. Let's see this simple syntax in action. Okay, let's deliberately slow the pace down for a second. When we actually look at the mechanics, you'll see how intuitive this really is, even if you're somewhat new to this specific environment. Imagine writing out a variable for a name, like John, and another for a premium amount, like $1,500. With Gosu, you just write var name equals John and var premium equals $1,500. Notice what's missing. There is no explicit data type. Gosu just automatically knows that John is text and 1,500 is a number. That automatic type inference we just talked about handles the formatting for you, keeping everything incredibly short and sweet. And building conditional logic is just as straightforward. Say you write an if statement checking if that premium is over 1,000, and if so, it prints high premium. Think of a snippet like that as a mini story. You aren't just typing arbitrary syntax. The system is actively flagging a high-risk policy based on that premium amount. You're expressing logic in a way that actually reads naturally to a human being. As you dive a bit deeper, you'll start working with classes and objects. The easiest way to demystify object-oriented programming is to think of a class simply as a blueprint. If you map out a generic policy class, you'd ask, what are its properties? Well, things like a policy number and a premium amount. And what are its actions or methods? Things like calculating that very premium. It maps perfectly to reality. A policy has properties and actions in the code exactly like it does in a real insurance office. Section 4, Coding Best Practices to Keep Things Clean and Maintainable. Look, writing Gosu is one thing, but writing clean code is what actually matters for long-term maintainability. It's those little habits that make a massive impact over time. So, here are some rapid-fire rules to live by. Keep your functions short and focused. Avoid duplicating your code. Always use clear, descriptive names so anyone can understand your work at a glance. Test frequently, using those built-in Guidewire Studio tools. But if you take away just one thing, make it this: configuration over customization. Guidewire strongly pushes you to configure the existing system rather than building heavy custom add-ons. It keeps the whole application highly stable and makes future upgrades an absolute breeze. Keep it simple. Section 5. Real-world insurance solutions. This is where we automate insurance. This is really the climax of the whole process. You're actually solving real-world problems now. Think about the core use cases across platforms like PolicyCenter or ClaimCenter. We're talking premium calculation, claim validation, workflow automation, and data validation. In policy management, when you apply discounts or validate data, you're handling complex business rules. In claims, triggering approvals and calculating payouts saves a massive amount of manual effort. Gosu steps in and replaces all that tedious manual work with streamlined automated workflows running quietly in the background. The source material for this explainer sums it up perfectly. It says, you're not just coding, you're helping systems run more efficiently. And that, right there, is exactly why Guidewire professionals are in such high demand right now. Gosu is uniquely valuable because it directly bridges the gap between technical logic and core business needs. You are literally making a tangible impact on how an entire enterprise operates. Which brings us to our final question. Are you ready to master Guidewire? As we've seen throughout this explainer, the barrier to entry is delightfully low, mostly thanks to that simple syntax and the sharp focus on business logic. Yet mastering this opens the door to a highly lucrative, incredibly in-demand sector of the IT world. It's absolutely a game changer of a skill